Okay, this is part 3 of the build. I'm going to show how the elements are threaded through the spacers on the antenna, and we'll get through that in this build video. It takes a few minutes to do that, so sit back, enjoy, and learn something that you'll be able to use to build your version of this antenna. Okay, you may remember that we marked the holes that we're going to run the elements through. I'm going to start with the 40-meter element, and it's this one here on the drive plate. So I'm going to take the bolt off and one of the washers and place that element on there and just hand tighten it. We'll come back with a wrench later and tighten it. And we'll bring, this is the longest element, and I will need to put a tension loop in it after we get it run through before we tighten it up. So, but first we'll run the first through the 40 hole here, and the tension loop should go between this standoff and the next standoff. So I'm going to go ahead and run this through, and we'll come back and do the tension loop. Okay, the 40-meter element comes all the way to the top and will actually loop back. This is called the fold back, and we will have to adjust that as we go, tune it, but we can't do any tuning until we have all the elements in place, because they do interact with each other a little, but we have to allow for that. So we have to get all the elements in place before we can do any tuning. I may have to enlarge this hole here because that 40 element is going to have to loop back through. It could probably go on the outside there. I think that's what I'll do, is just leave it on the outside. But right now we've got the 40 temporarily run through, and we'll do the 20 now the same way. And here's the 20. And I got ahead of myself. I had put the fold back tape on here, and that won't work because I have to run the wire through the standoffs before I can do the fold back. But I'm using Callum's specifications, and I accept full responsibility if this does not work right, because the gauge of the wire is different, and there's quite a few subtle differences about the way this thing is going to be put together. And I'll probably have to do some tweaking and tuning, but to me, that's part of antenna building, so it is what it is. So we'll put the 20-meter wire over here. The same way we did the 40. And then we'll string it up through the standoffs like we did the 40. All right. But this one's not going to go all the way up like the 40, and there's where I had my bend. There's the 20 hole right there. I'm going to try to leave that bend where I had the fold back. And it's not even going to make it to the second one here at all. So I can put the tape back on here for the fold back. I'll do that. We'll do that all at the same time for right now. It's going to be interesting. This antenna is a little bit more involved. It's not really complex, but there's a lot of steps involved. And I got the same thing here. I did my fold back on this one too. thinking I was saving some time and actually wasted time. So having to undo what I did off camera yesterday afternoon late. Second guessing myself. Let's see, this one is 17. It's not the next one on the dial, but it's the next longest one, so I'm going to go ahead and run it. And since we've got all the positions marked, it doesn't really matter what sequence we do them in, as long as we match the sequence, you know, top to bottom. I'm really curious about this antenna. Got high hopes for it for DX, but it's unprecedented in my book, and this one's gonna be short as well. That's where the Paracord and the Bungees are gonna come into play here. I'm gonna let that one drop. And let's see, here's the 15 meter element. It's the next one on the dial here, and missing one washer off of that one. Again, this is all temporary because we've got to do tuning and various things. And here's another fold back that I got to undo. I try to, you know, I mess up from time to time. I miscount things. I make various small errors, and I try not to hide them from you. It's part of life. I ain't perfect. I don't think you're perfect either. But it's part of the process, and it is what it is. All right, here's 10 and 12. I ran out of the other wire, so I had to use blue wire. And this is the 12. You know, they get progressively shorter, as you should know. The higher the frequency, the shorter the antenna. And like I say, I am really, really curious about how this one's going to work. It's barely going to come through there, if it ends up, once tuned, whether it's going to be all the way through there or not. We may have to make some adjustments, or make some accommodations for this wire, because the fold back just barely does come through there. And we've got one more for 10 meters. Wasted a little electrical tape. I left one washer off of that one too. All right, so there's no 10 meter element, and it shouldn't reach it at all. Okay, it'll be about a foot to 16 inches below this standoff. All right, we need to start using our Bungees and Paracord in order to start tensioning these up. And I think I'll start from the higher frequency bands that'll put some tension on that on these two lower standoffs, and before I start putting tension on this end of the mast here, because it'll need support from the lower ones. So let's move the camera so we can see what we're doing a little better. Okay, I've got a couple of the Bungees. I've got some Paracord here, and let's see what we're going to have to do to get some tension on these things. And got my tape to do my fold backs. And let's start with this 12 meter right here. I'm going to tape it at the fold back length. And once we get tuned, I'll replace this tape with heat shrink. But while we're tuning and cutting and rigging here, tape is the more flexible and cheaper solution. So I need to run paracord from this up to the next support standoff up there. Just going to put a little square knot here. Like I say, this is temporary. It'll all be changed. And I'm going to cut this right here. Got to make sure and work it around my guy ropes here so don't get tangled on that. All right, this is 12. And let's see what we can do here. I'm going to have to run a little piece of this through the 12 hole here. And I think what I'm going to do is get my drill and a little bit larger bit and drill that out. Well, that wasn't much bigger. I thought it was a bigger bit. I need to get an even bigger bit. Bring out the whole arsenal this time. Maybe save myself a trip. I'm not going to go ahead and drill a 1/4 inch hole for this. For this paracord. A small piece through to hook the bungee to. Again, this is temporary. We're not going for neatness right now. We're going for functionality. And that should be sufficient there. Put a little loop. All right, put the little ball through there. Put this one through here. See how much stretch we got here. Pretty good bit. I'll stretch it about 80% or so. Put in a temporary knot here. And this is not going to look pretty. We're not going for pretty right now. We're going for functionality. And that 12-meter element is pretty taut, and we'll get another one on here and tighten it down the other way, and we should be good there. Let's look at the 15 meter, since it's almost 180 degrees out, and we'll do a similar thing there. Go ahead and tape the fold back here. Again, temporary. We'll put heat shrink on there once we're through with our tuning. I'm really curious how close this thing's going to be on first tune. I don't expect it to be super close. I intentionally cut the elements a little long since I'm not in what would be considered the normal configuration for this antenna. So I tried to make a few allowances, and that was one way I did it. Let's get the 15 meter hole here, make it big enough to put the paracord through. Y'all can tell maybe this is the first time I've built this. I have not pre-built it, you know, and showing y'all second go around. This is first time. So let's get this down here. This is going to have to be a little bit longer since the 15-meter element is a little shorter. Okay, that's it there. We'll get a little through there like that and see how long this has to be. All right. And something like that should be long enough, because I'm going to pull it back and tighten it up. And it'll look much nicer when we get our shock cord and everything. All right. How much stretch have I got there? That's full stretch. I go about 80% stretch and put a knot here. All right, so we've got our 12 and 15 tightened up, and let's see. Let's look at our 17 here, and it's coming up here. I think before I do the 17, I think I want to do the 10, just to try to even out the stress here. So I'll have to drill this one out, tape up my fold back there. So let me get the drill and the tape. Okay, and tie this one off. And we don't have, that's all that cord. And here's another red one. I've got two green ones. And, all right. So here's the 10. Let's tape the fold back on it. I can tell the closer I get on this thing, I'm getting a little excited. Although I don't have the radials laid out yet, but I'm still getting a little excited as to how this thing's going to look on the Nano VNA. I'm hopeful, but I do expect to have to do some tuning. All right, so we'll put this through like that. Put this through there. And I need to make that shorter. So I'll loop that through like that. That should maybe give me enough. All right. It's going to be all the way up. That's full stretch. That's about 80% stretch there. The humidity here, it's morning here in south central Kentucky. The temperature isn't bad. It's in the mid 70s, but so is the humidity. And you probably see me sweating a little bit. And also here in the cooler part of the day, the bugs are out. You may see me swatting from time to time. And that's these little gnats. Okay, so there's 10. So now we're ready for 17. And I'm gonna have to cut the end off of, we got a lot of extra on this cord that goes to this tree. I had 3 different bundles of cord that was all wrapped the same. None of them had links on them. And I understand why now, why the package didn't have any links. These must be seconds or whatever you call it, because none of the 3 bundles of paracord were the same length. This one was the longest. This one probably is closer to 100 feet, where the others were close to 50 feet. So let's see here. We've got the 17 and the 20. Let's see where the 20 is going to go to. The 20 is going to come up to here, so we need a short piece of paracord for it, and I don't think it'll be quite enough. A short piece of paracord for the 20, and I need to go ahead and tape the fold back on the 20 here. Need to roll this over so I can work on the 20 where it won't be interfered with. Get this 17 out of the way. And there's the 20. And we'll put it there. All right. Let's tape it. Okay. And we got another red bungee. This is going to look awful in the short term. But in the long term, I think it's going to be great. All right, we need about 3 or 4 foot piece of this, and need to drill a hole. The tools are always on the opposite side of where you need them, seems like. I spend a lot of my time walking around. And we'll drill out the 20-meter hole here. All right. And we'll get need to make sure I'm not getting tangled up in my guy ropes there. Get on the proper side. There and there, don't need much, so I'll cut that about there. Try to, boy, this one's strong. Wow, I don't know what that's made out of, but I can't cut it with my knife. Let's see, let me get these diagonals here, see if I can get through it. Here's, barely nicked it. Yeah, the diagonals cut it. Wow, that impressive because I've been cutting the other stuff with my knife. All right. I'll go about 80% stretch on that. All right. So, looking good. What do we got loose here? Got the 40, of course, and what is this one? The 17. So we need to do the 17. Go ahead and tape it. All right, got the 17 and a bungee. And need to put a little of this down here as a standoff, because I don't want the bungee. And I'm not sure, I'm thinking that hook has metal in it, and I don't want it to detune by being too close to the element there. And we'll put a cut a section there. Put a loop here. Just simple stuff. Like I say, right now doesn't have to be pretty. And then I have to put another anchor. And I'm going to have to untangle my guy. I'll have to I'll untie it here and straighten that out before we get through here. Drill out the hole for the 17 here. Alright, got that. I'll just cut it right here. And then we can tighten it as needed. Tie a knot. This outer coating on this is just super strong. I'm amazed how strong that is. All right, we've got, oops, what did I do? I must have collapsed a section here. Not that one. Not that one. This one. Okay. Kind of caught me by surprise. I don't have a clamp on each one of them. And I pulled a little too tight. And it collapsed on me. So that is something I need to do, is get a clamp, or you can also put some electrical tape on each joint to help keep it from collapsing. And that should be sufficient tension on that. This bungee doesn't stretch very much. It only stretches about 4 or 5 inches. So I really just pulled on it too hard. All right. Now we got to work with the 40 here. I'm going to go ahead and untie this guy rope because I've got it out of sequence, it would have been tangled up with the elements. I wasn't careful when I was putting the elements on to keep it untangled, but that's good now. And we've got to go with the 40. Okay, we've got the 40 all the way up here, and let's rotate this a little bit to get the weight off of the 40, like so, so we can see what we're working with a little better. And it collapsed again. Okay, I'm gonna have to put a clamp on that to keep it from collapsing, I believe. So I'm going to rig up a clamp like we did on the others, put some heat shrink on there, put it on, and that should keep it from collapsing in the future. Okay, I had to end up putting 2 clamps on because the tension is causing the pole to collapse on itself. And I thought it might, but I was trying to see if I could get away without doing it. But on those lower sections, because we've got all these different bungees, even though each bungees may be only putting on 5 pounds of pressure, it's cumulative as we go around. Now, the only thing we've got left to do is snug up this 40 meter element, and it goes all the way to the top here and then loops back down. So I'm going to pull it here through the top and string it back down. It's not going to be super tight right now. I'll probably improve upon that once we do the tuning. But this fold back may need to be tuned quite a lot. I'm not sure. But we have all the elements on it. We've got the guy ropes on it, and we're ready to stand it up. Then once we stand it up, I'll need to lay out the radials. We've already got the radials made up and cut. They just need to be laid out. Let's see if we can stand this rascal up. I'm going to get on the other side here where I can get to this guy rope that's going to this far tree and see how this thing looks. I'll need to move it just a little bit. And I may need to twist those spacers a little bit to make sure the elements are evenly spaced around the antenna. All right. And we've got this extra little piece of, I do need to get a wrench and tighten my elements down here at the connector plate, because we just made those finger tight a few minutes ago. But folks, it is up with some minor tweaking. and laying out radials, we'll be ready to do some resonance and SWR testing here in a few minutes. So hang with us. We're going to get this done. Well, we've come to the end of part 3 of our 4-part series on building a clone of the DX Commander. Next week, we'll complete the build and do the tuning and show the results. I think you're going to really like what you see. This is Jerry, Kilo Mike 4, Zulu Kilo Bravo. Hope you have a blessed day.